Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Happy to have on our show Matt Folk. And if you've heard this guy's name, you've certainly seen him because I don't know if they clone you. I think you'd like to be cloned because you are a man about campus or a man about everywhere when it comes to Purdue. And Matt, the CEO of the Purdue for Life Foundation, a role that has been a relatively new one, but you start a role like this and then you have a pandemic. I mean, it's just a piece of cake, but I'm sure. But welcome to the show. And these are exciting times because Purdue for Life has a lot to do with Purdue athletics, but this is a very exciting time at the university, certainly, but also in Purdue athletics.
Yeah, Alan, thanks for having me. Purdue for Life, in case folks don't know, is basically 3 years ago, I retired, sold my semiconductor business, and Mitch and the board asked me to put together an alumni committee and study all of our alumni-facing organizations. They weren't working together very well, as many of you know. So shockingly, we came together and promoted a integrated advancement model. And from the areas most people know, they put in John Purdue Club, the Alumni Association, which was a separate independent corporation. So we had to do a bunch of legal stuff to help pull them in, President's Council, and then all the university development. So all the fundraising for every aspect of the university, including athletics. And then what most people don't know is we have all the foundation relations for the university. We have all the corporate interface for the top 300 partners, which involves research, hiring students, the whole gamut. And then we're in process of bringing on life alumni living on campus, retirement centers and condos, and a tight interface with alum to the university, online university for alum, and then a few other things that we've built out inside the engagement model. So we've been pretty busy. And yeah, my first day on the job was sending 350 people home. And I think my third day I canceled Day of Giving. So I think Pete Quinn called me and told me I was ruining Purdue, and he wished that IU had hired me that first week. So.
Yeah, you have to in that role when you have an all-encompassing opportunity. It is one day at a time and one thing at a time. But boy, it's you've had your share of challenges when it comes to that. One of the things that's interesting, and I wanted you to go in because the university is obviously taking it's maybe oversimplified, but trying to consolidate certain things, bring things together to kind of fine tune and keep the mission moving all forward for everyone. I mean, is that a oversimplification of what, when you've combined foundation, Purdue Alumni Association, and all this together, and then you get into other ventures like you're talking about, housing, things that big projects that are really bigger than what we would have said 15 years ago is a typical scope for this type of opportunity.
Yeah, if you really look at it, there's the Central University with Mitch and research and teaching. Then there's Purdue Research Foundation, which we've all known about for almost 100 years now, with all the IP management and sales of technology and building out new firms and all that sort of, and managing the endowment. And then there's now Purdue for Life Foundation, which is pretty much dealing with alumni graduation on and anything encompassing alumni corporation or foundation sort of support. So yes, there's a concerted effort to try and centralize and make different units work together better, and a concerted effort, especially in our area, to try and break down silos. So we have simple things like John Purdue Club working with the Alumni Association when it comes to bowl game parties or President's Council Week down in Naples we just got over with, and it's the first time, one website, one sign up, one payment, one agenda throughout the whole week, and it looked cohesive. So it's simple things. This isn't brain surgery, but Purdue is extremely siloed, especially on the academic side, and trying to break down those silos is very difficult at times. And so we essentially did about 10 mergers in the middle of a pandemic. So that was interesting.
Yeah, interesting. The word "interesting" is an interesting choice of words, but you've worked your way through that. You look at, and obviously a big part of Purdue's reach is athletics, at least from a national level. There's, it's hard to debate the role of having one of the
Yes.
the most exciting bowl game and in the bowl season this year, or at least as exciting as any other. And then you have a men's basketball team that's been a top 10 team, if not top 5 team all along. I know you've been involved with, your family's been involved with major contributions to soccer, but that role of athletics and that role that it plays in Purdue's message, how is that intertwined with what you're trying to bring all this together?
Well, from alumni and corporate standpoint, it's the front porch of the university, and Mitch, the board of trustees, and everybody on down, knows that. We run it a little bit differently than most major universities, with it being self-funded, but it is the front porch. And obviously, when football and volleyball and even soccer and wrestling and basketball are clicking like they have, it helps us set records. Our alum came through and more than a game stepped up. And I think we're the only, we did the best of any university in the Big Ten, and essentially came out flat last year in a pandemic and some serious difficult times. And I think we ended up having the #1 fundraising year for athletics in a long, long time. So that was great. We've also increased the number of John Purdue Club memberships, and we've even instituted now, along with some of the student clubs that have to do with the Alumni Association, there's some joint membership there for student John Purdue Club members. So trying to push that back, that recognition and knowledge of what private philanthropy does for the university, even down to our student level.
Purdue has got the reputation, is a certain type of person that is a Purdue person. No matter where they come from, they seems to work that in. To deal with the pandemic and to be able to come out whole in athletics, but that challenge has been there. And you're a Purdue person, and you've had an opinion of how they were, even all the things you did with BBE and everything you did in Indianapolis before you got involved in this gig, so to speak. But has that changed at all in terms of what you see as that Purdue male or female, graduate, undergraduate supporter? Has that profile changed at all for you, or is this just more reinforce what it is?
More reinforcement. I mean, that Purdue grit runs through everything. Last year, from a giving standpoint, we finished up at 425 million. We don't advertise it a lot, but that was the second highest giving number we've ever done, and we even pulled out about 50 million of software we probably should have never been counting. And I can tell you, as of today, with 4 or 5 months to go and day of giving, we've rolled over 425 million this year, and we'll set probably a record for all-time giving here at Purdue. And there's a lot of things driving that. We've got one of the biggest generational wealth transfers in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Biden scared the hell out of people, and we've got a few other things going on. But Purdue alum are much tighter, I think, than most other university alum are with their alma mater. And when they knew we needed help getting through this whole process, they really stepped up and have done some shockingly cool things for the university. And it's really going to help us take some giant leaps going forward.
Yes, and you have that opportunity to do that on a daily basis. It becomes digging the trench, so to speak. All right, so been some talk and maybe some things that will be announced later in the spring about Purdue football renovations and other things that go on. And what would, obviously John Purdue Club is a big part of the boots on the ground, so to speak, but you're also a big part of not only raising money, but trying to also formulate exactly what the needs are and what makes that college football experience extra special. I know they can't divulge all of what's going on just yet, but tell us a little bit about what to expect and why. And even though after a pandemic, that there's a lot of positive mojo, so to speak, with Purdue football.
Yeah, so we talked about what my CEO foundation job is. I have a second job on the university side where I'm vice president of alumni development or alumni engagement and university development. So I help run the board of trustee agenda committee and the building committee. There's 3 of us on there that approve everything, and naming committees and equity task force and a lot of other things that we're on. But under the building committee and the naming committee, I get to see some advanced information, even more than I did as just a regular alum on the Breeze Leadership Committee. And we're not going to do massive huge renovations to the stadium at this point in time, but I think we'll do a lot of things that make the experience for the student athlete much better, maybe game day experience for them much better, potential to use the performance facility locker room on game day and not have to switch things up. So there's some interesting things that Tim and Mike are working on from that standpoint over there, and I think you'll start to see us go forward on that. There's an interesting dynamic, with everything that's happening with NIL and where conferences are going to end up, or if that whole thing. When you talk to Mitch about where's football going to be in 10 years, it's interesting discussion on whether you want to drop another 100 million on the facility in general, or whether you want to take some baby steps and improve things as we go until we see how the whole thing shakes out. But now we're also now talking about billion-dollar contracts for NBC or whatnot. So that even changes things going forward from that standpoint, and really helps you upgrade the plant and the facility, along with game day experience and even experiences out in the parking lot tailgating for alum, family, and friends.
All right, you asked it, so I'm going to have to. Where is football going to be 10 years? Where? I mean, even in higher ed, you're obviously you're shaping what you're doing now will shape what the university looks like in a number of different ways in the next 10 to 15 years. What are some things that you foresee? We talked a little bit about the college football experience and what that is, and how fans take in sports and big time athletics. But put your crystal ball on and tell us where you think it's all going to be in 2033.
From a campus standpoint, right now we have, I think I counted up last week, 22 or 23 different either building projects or renovation projects or small projects going on in some stage of starting fundraising to completion. Athletics is no different. Mitch is, I'd arm wrestle Mitch on who's the biggest Purdue sports fan around, him or I. And he'd probably win, but some of the stuff that will go down, I think a lot of it will be more focused on student support, student experience, student growth, and facilities that help the students spend less time running around, more time, back to some of Morgan's concepts on not wasting so much time for the students, athletes a day, getting them more compact, getting them through the process, and doing that sort of thing. And I don't want to get into what some of the smaller projects would be for Ross-Ade, but I think you'll see that coming out here within the next couple months. And so I'll leave that to Mike and Tim House to talk about.
Totally understood. NIL is a game changer, but as you talk about the student athlete experience and what all that brings into, or the student experience as well. I mean, these universities are, when you and I went through Purdue, it's a little different deal from that standpoint in terms of what the creature comforts that are available, but also what is expected. I mean, is there a correlation between that and what you have to do to also retain students over the long period of time and your role with that?
Not only is our alumni and fan base a little bit different and more of a family sort of structure than most Big Ten schools are, but our athletes are a little bit different too. I mean, they come here for an education. They come here to advance their families and their careers, et cetera. So most of the kids that are coming here are not going to necessarily make decisions based upon this NIL deal A versus B versus C. So Mike and everybody over in athletics is looking at that very carefully and trying to structure a program that really benefits the type of students that we have, maybe not the type of student athletes that are going to pick Alabama versus Texas A&M or something.
Yeah, yeah. I think positioning and knowing who you are is always, and what your strengths are, has always been a strength of Purdue, and something that if you can keep that notion running, you have a chance to be successful. All right, so you're going to have what could be anybody that's a Purdue fan or observer hopes is a long run in March, if not early April. Talk about just that excitement, though, of having that, a team, the men's basketball team ranked in the top 10, or a football team, like you said, winning a monumental college football game against Tennessee in front of the college football world. What that's meant, and what that can mean to the school as this academic athletic season comes to an end.
I mean, the amount of excitement we had at the bowl game with our donors, with our fans, the amount of excitement we had with some key folks that we were in process of working deals with up in the suites, with, Mitch running around high-fiving them, and us, high-fiving and then being in the dumps, and then high-fiving and being in the dumps.
Yeah. 5 times in the last 5 minutes, I think, right?
God,
yeah.
It was crazy. But the amount of ability that helps us to move the university forward, not only on the athletic side, but on the academic side, especially since we've gone through on fundraising and really tried to break down those silos. A lot of us as alum, I'm an electrical engineer, and I hated nothing more than when Double E would sneak down to see me in my office in Indianapolis and apologize for being there because athletics owned me.
Yeah.
So we've really worked hard to try and break down those silos and allow alum to donate across pillars wherever they have interest in what we're doing, whether it's in their major or not. And I think that really benefits folks like athletics, Cancer Research Center, athletics, Black Cultural Center, DIB, bands, the union that got paid for by, nobody graduates from the union athletics or DIB. So I think that really helps to spread the wealth around, and it helps to take deals of X and turn them into donations of maybe X plus 20%.
Yeah, interesting story. Is an interesting topic, and your interest in knowledge, obviously, of Purdue athletics and how it integrates is always, I think, very interesting for our viewers and readers, et cetera. So Matt, go ahead.
Things like the new golf clubhouse will even, help that experience with the, $20 million donation from Mr. Allen, and the way that facility is going to look when we're done is going to be amazing, with views of the north course and the south course from the clubhouse. The road will be bent up and around, so we can get a massive clubhouse built in there. That's going to help us with the alumni living on campus, building out this whole West End with the live, work, play area and businesses, and building out that whole West End of campus. And just even the amount of additional work we can do and engagement we can have with our alum at that new facility will be tremendous, let alone everything that's going on at the Union.
Yeah, no doubt. Exciting time to be around Purdue, not only Purdue sports, but Purdue University. Matt, thanks so much for your time. We'll really appreciate it. Always interesting, and we just what you want. We'll keep you on our annual retainer so we can talk to you, because I know that's the focal point of your daily existence, but we appreciate your expertise.
Well, I'm cheap, and my wife says I can talk about Purdue ad nauseum. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, I want to thank Triple X, our sponsors, Triple X on the Hill, but on the level. Purdue tradition since 1929. Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, and of course, Gordon Jackson, the good folks at WLFI, for helping make this show happen. Really good show today. I appreciate, obviously, Matt Folk and our mental health professionals, Brad Foltz and Kelsey Dawson, and of course, Brian Newbert and Tom Dienhart for talking Purdue sports. Big weekend for Purdue men's basketball. Big game Sunday night. That's going to be interesting. Who would have thought, Matt, that Purdue Rutgers was going to be maybe the focal point of the Big Ten season, but it will be that way in Mackey Arena on Sunday night.
I did not have this one circled back in November.
Yeah, maybe after that shot by Ron Harper Jr., we all should. But yes, it's going to be a another great environment. So, Matt, thanks again. To all of you that have watched, we appreciate you. We'll see you next week on Gold and Black Live.
Well,